So my name is Mara Hawes, and I'm RNAO's Legal Assistance Program Administrator. And also on the line is Roberta Tassin. She is a partner and the Vice President of Corporate Risk for the Magnus Group, which is RNAO's insurance broker for our Professional Liability Protection Program. And we're very happy to be with you all this evening to speak about the legal protection programs available through RNAO membership, which are professional liability protection and the legal assistance program. So I will give it over to Roberta, and she'll speak to you about RNAO's PLP. So again, professional liability protection, we'll refer to it throughout as PLP. And then once Roberta's finished covering PLP, I will move into talking about RNAO's LAP program. So go ahead, Roberta.
Great, thanks, Mara. So good evening, it's Roberta Tassin from the Magnus Group, as Mara mentioned, and I'm going to be speaking about the RNAO PLP program, specifically how RNAO has the RNAO members covered. And I'm just going to be switching slides here. So the items of discussion for this evening are surrounding the PLP program. So we're going to be discussing what is PLP, why do RNs and NPs need professional liability protection, and then we are going to focus on the actual RNAO PLP program. So we are going to cover the coverage eligibility, the scope of coverage, the key limits of insurance, the key features of coverage, and then how do I purchase this very broad product for RNAO members. In terms of what professional liability or PLP protection is, we wanted to state that it is first and foremost a requirement by the College of Nurses of Ontario, the CNO, and this requirement took effect on March 31st, 2014. So from 2014 onwards, it is a requirement, and as such, the CNO, the college, may request proof of adequate PLP protection at any point in time. Noncompliance of this requirement constitutes an act of professional misconduct under the Regulated Health Professions Act. So there could be potential implications to your registration with the college if, in fact, the college requests evidence of insurance and the member is not able to actually provide proof. Again, it is very important to have this PLP protection as is regulated by the college. The other key reasons for actually having or carrying PLP protection go beyond the actual regulatory requirement. It's actually providing protection for nurses from bearing the cost of legal expenses and civil damages in the event that they are found to have an allegation made against them for the rendering of professional services as an RN or NP. So very important, because not only is it a regulatory requirement, it's actually benefiting the individual nurse or NP in providing that protection should an allegation be made. And what we sometimes find is that an allegation can be made and it can turn out to be completely frivolous. And just because an allegation has been made by a third party against a nurse or NP, it doesn't mean that that nurse or NP did anything wrong. It is really that an allegation. So the PLP would actually protect the nurse and provide that legal protection reimbursement in the event that they need to defend themselves for those allegations. The PLP also provides protection or availability of financial compensation to members of the public. So that is one of the key reasons as to why the CNO implemented this. The college, as a regulatory body, wants to make sure that, if the public or if a third party has a complaint against a member of the college, that that individual has the financial wherewithal or has the backstop to indemnify the patient or the client that possibly has been harmed because of the negligence of the nurse or NP. And so this is really protection for both the nurse himself or herself and also the public. In terms of the RNAO's PLP program specifically, there are key aspects of it that we wish to highlight this evening. And first and foremost, it does actually satisfy the CNO PLP requirement in terms of specifics, limits, and so forth. It actually goes beyond the minimum limits that the CNO requires. We've expanded the program to be higher than what is minimum required for the benefit of the individual RNAO member. It is a contract of insurance, so there is an insurance policy in force, and so there is a duty to defend by the insurer in the policy wording. So there is an actual professional liability insurance policy being issued. So very much like any of us that are carrying a homeowner's or a tenant's policy or an automobile policy, we do actually get policy documents. So there is an insurance policy in force that will indemnify the nurse. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I'm actually, recuperating from a cough. I apologize.
Yeah, take a second, get some water. We don't want you to coughing and uncomfortable.
Thank you.
Yeah, take a second, no problem. Sorry, everybody, just give Roberta a sec.
Yeah, sorry about that. So with respect to eligibility for coverage, so in terms of the eligibility, RNs and NPs are protected for claims arising from professional nursing services rendered while they were an RNAO member, irrespective of when a claim or legal proceeding arising from these nursing services is commenced. So irregardless of when the actual nursing service was rendered, there is continuity of coverage under the RNAO PLP program. So therefore, RNs and NPs remain protected even if RNAO membership is discontinued and through retirement for covered medical incidents that arose while they held an active RNAO membership. So it is very key for the program to provide that continuity of coverage. Some members will perhaps not continue to be members on a going forward basis. Some members will actually retire, of course, and so we need to actually provide that continuity of protection that even if the member decides to stop membership for whatever reason, that should a claim ensue from when they were a member, that they do have the protection going forward. This next slide actually reflects the fact that the supplier of the PLP program did change as of 2015. So prior to 2015, it was CNPF, and after 2015, November 1st, it is now the RNAO PLP program through Liability. So irregardless of the supplier of the PLP program, we wish to rest assure the members of RNAO that they have continuity of cover. So depending on when the service was rendered, the supplier of the PLP that would provide protection could be either CNPS or it could be Liberty through the RNAO PLP program. But what we wanted to signify here is that there is a continuity of coverage. So claims originating from nursing services rendered before November 1st, 2015 will be handled by CNPS, and claims originating from nursing services rendered after November 1st, 2015 will be handled by RNAO's PLP as per the terms of the policy. So with respect to RNAO's PLP, the insured that is currently providing the PLP protection as of November 1st, 2015 is Liberty Mutual Insurance Company. And we wanted to highlight some key information on Liberty. So they are a leading provider of professional liability insurance in Canada since 1936, so a number of years that they've been established in Canada. They do have expertise in underwriting and insuring the nursing profession, And they also provide insurance for nursing associations worldwide, specifically some of the key ones in the United States. They do have experience in defending nurses and other healthcare professionals, and their dedicated health claims team have been in operation for some time and combined have over 150 years of experience. Last but not least, with the fact that the RNAO PLP program is backstopped by an insurance company are financially regulated in Canada. So they are closely monitored to establish that they do have the financial wherewithal to pay claims. And so with respect to the financial rating of Liberty, it is an A rating of excellent by AM Best-Co, which is the leading authority on the financial well-being of insurance companies in Canada. In terms of scope of coverage, this is certainly one of the questions that we get asked most often is, what is actually covered or what am I covered for? And one key item of the PLP program for RNAO that we wish to highlight is that we do not list the products and or services that the specific RN or NP can provide. We find that listing products and or services provided may actually entail reducing coverage because of the fact that if you list items and you may be missing some, then overtly you may not have coverage on a combined wholesome basis. And so we actually have a very broad definition of what is covered so that we actually encompass as many services, if not all services, that an RN or NP may provide. This also enables the inclusion of coverage for new nursing services that are, mandated or regulated by the college to be included as being covered in the RNAO program. So as you can see, the definition is quite broad. It's actions performed or which ought to have been performed to a patient client as part of the RN or NP's practice of nursing, and shall include those acts which fall within the practice of nursing or for which the RN or NP may be authorized. And also, it's any instance where there is the use of nursing knowledge, judgment, and skill on the delivery of healthcare services to a patient and client. So again, we find that RNs and NPs these days are actually broadening their horizons and can expand their role. Many of them are also starting, their own business, and they're providing services that may not be the traditional nursing services that we often think about. So with this definition being as broad as it is, we encompass all of those evolutionary roles that RNMPs are actually taking on in our society. In terms of key limits of insurance, as mentioned, we go beyond the minimum limits that are mandated by the college. So the college mandates a limit of $1 million per claim, $2 million aggregate for RNs, and they mandate a limit of $5 million per claim, $5 million aggregate for NPs. So what we do is we provide up to $10 million per claim for amounts, legal expenses, and compensatory damages that an RN or NP may become legally obligated to pay as a result of a professional liability claim arising from a covered medical incident. So as you can see, we are not providing the minimum limits. We're going, beyond that to provide you even more protection than what the college minimum mandates for each member to carry. In addition to the civil litigation limit, and that is really what the college mandates, we do provide additional coverages that go beyond what the minimum requirements are. And one of them is criminal investigations and prosecutions. So we do provide reimbursement up to $1 million for successful defense of criminal charges laid in Canada arising out of nursing practice. So it is actually quite difficult to think that a nurse could be charged criminally for an action by a third-party patient. We did have an RNAO member recently, unfortunately, having had a criminal allegation brought against them for sexual assault by a patient. They did actually report that into the RNAO PLP program. we were able to provide them a criminal lawyer right away to look after the allegation. And the good news is that at the end of the day, the allegation was proven to be false for this RNAO member, but they were able to rely on the RNAO PLP program in a time of need. And the call that we received was actually over the weekend, and we were able to action Liberty Insurance right away so that the individual was able to contact the lawyer first thing on Monday morning and address that with the police. So that turned out to be a good news story. But that's where we want the insurance company to respond in those situations where it's an unfortunate allegation that may not be true, and we want the insurance company there to defend. And if, in fact, if the allegation turns out to be true, people do make mistakes in terms of, unintentional errors and omissions, then obviously, again, you have the insurance there to provide protection in the event that there is actual negligence on behalf of the member. A few other extensions of coverage that are under the RNAO PLP program. We do provide coverage for statutory offenses, reimbursement up to $1 million for defense of human rights or privacy regulatory administrative proceedings arising out of nursing practice. We did have an RNAO member having been contacted by the Ministry of Long-Term Health and having alleged to have actually gone against one of the statutory guidelines or regulations under the Ministry of Long-Term Healthcare Act. And so in that instance, we were able to provide her legal representation to correspond with the Ministry of Long-Term Care on the allegation that an offense was actually took place. So again, that one was also protected by the RNAO PLP program. Another extension is public inquests and fatality inquiries and public inquiries. So if you are required as an RNAO member to attend a inquiry or an inquest in your capacity as an RN or NP, there is reimbursement up to $1 million under the RNAO PLP program. And then also for non-party proceeding, there is reimbursement up to $1 million if you are required to attend a civil or criminal proceeding to provide evidence in your capacity as an RN or NP. So we've had that situation where an RN was actually involved in rendering services to a third party. They weren't involved specifically in the alleged negligent act, but they were involved in what took place. So they were actually required to attend the proceeding to provide their testimony, and as such, they were provided reimbursement for $1 million under this limit for that service that they did. Some other key features, defense counsel provided. So that is automatic. In the event that an allegation is made, whether true or false, legal counsel will be automatically assigned to the RNAO member, and covered legal fees in connection to the claim are also included. So there is no cost to the individual RNAO member in this scenario. And connected to that, there is zero deductible under the RNAO PLP program, so no deductible is payable by the individual RN or NP in the defense and settlement of a covered claim. So it is $1, meaning that the RNAO member does not pay anything for a covered medical incident. Certificates of insurance are available, so we do get asked by RNAO members who have PLP to have evidence of insurance, whether they want it for their own records or whether they need to produce it to a third party, and we are able to provide those certificates of insurance documentation accordingly. Or, for example, if the CNO is requiring you to provide PLP, you would want that certificate of insurance. Coverage extension to estate heirs executors. This is a good extension. It's, an extension in the unfortunate circumstance of an RNAO member's death, incapacity, insolvency, or bankruptcy. So in the event that that takes place, a claim can still be brought against you as an RNAO member for services that you rendered, obviously, in the past. And so this provides peace of mind that your family and assets are protected should that take place. Coverage extension to your role as educator. Again, we spoke about the RNAO members and RNs and NPs in general, just not RNAO members, evolving their roles accordingly. And so we do find that RNAO members and RNs and NPs in general in Ontario may take on additional roles, one of them being educators. So we do provide an extension to any RNAO member's role as an educator or as a member of a formal accreditation, standards review, or similar professional board or committee, including as a director or officer of such board or committee. Coverage is 24/7, so we want to specifically highlight that it is coverage that is available while on the job as well as after hours. And alongside it being 24/7, coverage is portable, so you can take your individual insurance coverage wherever you go, whether you have a second job, whether you move, whether you change jobs, whether you have multiple jobs. We do have, several RNAO members that may have multiple employers, or if you set up your own business. So we also have a few RNAO members that are actually setting up their own business, and so the PLP would also apply there. With respect to the setting up of your own business, there may be some additional insurance or business exposures that you would want to insure that would be outside the realm of the PLP. That's why the RNAO has what is called the Nurse Insure program. That is also serviced by Magnus, our office. So what we do with that program is there may be specific additional needs for insurance coverage because of the fact that you're running your own business. So if that applies to anyone, feel free to give us a call, and we can certainly talk to you about Nurse Insure, which is a separate product and subject to an additional cost. Coverage is also nationwide. We wanted to make sure that we expanded it to not only Ontario but to Canada. Should you practice outside of Ontario, provided you continue to maintain your CNO registration to practice, and of course, you maintain your RNAO membership. Should coverage outside of Canada be required or requested, we can still assist on that, but you would have to contact our office as there are some additional questions, and it may be subject to an additional cost for coverage outside of Canada. And where we see that is we have RNAO members that may do volunteer work internationally or work on cruise ships. Those would be the two common exposures that we see where we get asked for worldwide coverage, and we've always been able to meet the needs of those RNAO members by providing them that under a separate product. In addition to the RNAO PLP program, we wish to highlight that RNAO has a risk management helpline, and that helpline is very beneficial for RNAO members in that it helps RN and NPs with advice and guidance on some key items as such stipulated on the slide, professional obligations or liability and risk management issues. So in these types of inquiries, there is no allegation made, there is no statement of claim, there is no incident to be reported. RNAO members may have some questions regarding their obligations as their RN or NP, or they may want to have some education on risk management. As such, that's where the RNAO risk management helpline comes in. In terms of how you purchase the PLP, the great news is that it is an automatic membership benefit of RNAO membership. So the only thing you need to do is, if you're not currently an RNAO member, you become an RNAO member, you pay the membership fee, and you automatically get that $10 million limit. Upon commencement of the membership, it's immediately activated. You don't need to do anything else. And once implemented, it is strongly advisable that RNs and NPs continue to renew their membership with no delays and to avoid a gap in coverage. So you want to continue it for obviously many reasons. First and foremost, it's a requirement of the CNO registration, as we just previously discussed. It provides you with continuous protection. So you have to have been a member of RNAO at the time the service was rendered in order for the claim to be covered. So what's very important is that when your membership comes up for renewal November 1st, that you actually renew prior to November 1st. If for some reason there is a delay, I realize, life gets in the way and it's November 15th and you haven't still renewed it, keep in mind that you then have a gap from November 1st to November 15th because there is no backdating of coverage. So really important that once you get the PLP, to maintain it with no gap in date, and you want to make sure it continues with no interruption. In terms of the actual RNAO membership fees for RNs and Ps, so the regular membership fee is $256.36. So again, by paying the $256.36, you automatically get the PLP. If you're an ONA member, the price is $175. And then there is an option if you are retired or if you work less than 15 hours a week, the cost is $87.83. So that is my presentation. I will now pass it over to Mara, who will actually be speaking to you about LAP, the Legal Assistance Program.
Great. Thanks so much, Roberta. I'll just open the floor for a minute if anybody has any questions while I just get my slides ready here. If anybody has any questions for Roberta. Okay, so bear with me here for 1 sec while I get my slides going.
So she can see it.
Roberta, can you guys see my slides right now?
I can, yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so again, my name is Mara Hawes, and I'm RNAO's LAP administrator. So now that Roberta has covered the first legal protection program available through RNAO membership, I will cover the second, which is the Legal Assistance Program. So we'll talk about what exactly is the Legal Assistance Program, also known as LAP, what situations does LAP cover, details about the coverage available to eligible members, the eligibility criteria, and what to do to obtain assistance. So what is LAP? The most important thing to know is that LAP is not the same as PLP. There's still a lot of confusion about this. They are separate programs. They cover different things. The eligibility requirements are slightly different, so it's important to know that there are those differences. So unlike PLP, LAP is not required by the CNO or at all relevant to CNO's PLP bylaw. LAP is also not insurance. It's a discretionary program that's overseen by the LAP committee, which is a committee of RNAO members. And so I administer the program and I report to the LAP committee. They oversee the work that I do and the operation of the program. Unlike PLP, that's, as Roberta mentioned, is built into RNAO membership, LAP is voluntary. It's not automatically included. To participate in LAP, you would have to pay an additional $64.57 a year in addition to your RNAO membership. And essentially what LAP does is it supplements your PLP coverage. So it complements and supplements the coverage that you get through Liberty Mutual as part of your RNAO membership. So what then does LAP cover? If Roberta went over all the things that are covered through liability protection, most notably lawsuits, as well as the other things she talked about. So what then would LAP cover? So LAP covers the things that fall outside the scope of liability protection, including employment-related matters. This is one of the most common reasons people access the program, for things such as discipline up to and including termination. So you could be, fired from your job, laid off, or restructured out of a job, and the employer provides you with a severance package or no severance package, and you want a lawyer to look over the circumstances leading up to your dismissal, as well as any package you may have received, just to make sure that you're getting any rights, or getting any entitlements that you're entitled to, and that your rights are protected. Lawyers through the program would also give advice concerning various other legal issues which might arise in the course of your employment as a nurse, including workplace violence and harassment, human rights issues, including workplace accommodation for disability, as well as other legal issues. It's hard to go over all of them because they vary, but if there is an employment issue going on at work, you would have access to one of our lawyers to speak to you about those issues and get some advice and guidance on how to move forward. And then, of course, the second most common reason people access the LAP program is to assist with College of Nurses of Ontario investigations. So, as most of you are aware, complaints to the College of Nurses and reports can be made by anyone, and they can happen to anyone. In fact, it's more likely than not that at some point in your career you would have to deal with the college as a result of a complaint or a report. In my experience here at RNAO, it's pretty clear that most of the complaints that get made to the college have far more to do with the complainant than the actual conduct of the nurse. So it's important to recognize that no one is immune or insulated from college complaints. You can be a very competent, professional, ethical nurse and still face a complaint to the college. You know, being named in a complaint does not mean that you've done something wrong. You know, no, we can't control what other people do, and it's a very accessible and easy complaints process. And of course, the College of Nurses is mandated to protect the public, so they do investigate every complaint. So it's important to consider if the CNO is protecting the public, then who is protecting you and your registration. There's also no statute of limitations on filing a complaint, which means that a complainant can make a complaint to the college at any time after an alleged incident has taken place. And of course, because it's your registration to practice nursing in Ontario, the outcome of the college's investigation can have very detrimental and long-lasting implications. So it's important to have a lawyer protecting your interests and your rights throughout the process. And there are some other circumstances in which LAP would provide legal assistance. If you're considering taking a nursing role that's non-unionized, we can have a lawyer look over the employment contract prior to you signing it. You can get advice from a lawyer prior to giving a statement or appearing as a witness before a court or tribunal in relation to your nursing practice. So, for example, sometimes a nurse can be called to testify in a criminal proceeding in relation to the care they provided to a patient who also happens to be the defendant in their criminal trial. LAP also helps with WSIB issues related to injuries that happen at work. And because LAP is not insurance, it's a discretionary program, the LAP committee may use that discretion in order to consider supporting other legal matters related to the professional practice of nursing in Ontario. So Roberta talked about the financial amounts that are available under PLP, and the amounts are different under LAP just because of the nature of what's covered. So members who are eligible for LAP are eligible for up to $10,000 plus tax in funding assistance for legal expenses on a per-case basis. So meaning if you had 3 college complaints in 1 year, you'd be eligible for up to $10,000 in funding per case, so per complaint. And that would be to cover legal expenses being, of course, lawyers' fees, disbursements, medical reports, or any other customary disbursements that are necessary in the course of assisting you in your matter. As I mentioned, the program is overseen by the LAP committee, and it is the LAP committee that makes decisions about funding on a case-by-case basis, so it's not myself or any RNAO staff that make these decisions. The LAP committee makes the decisions based on the criteria in the LAP policy. And there's, you can be referred to a LAP lawyer. So we have a law firm on retainer that we've been working with for many, many years through the LAP program. So they have a lot of experience dealing with labor law as well as the College of Nurses. And so we can refer you directly to that law firm for assistance through from one of their lawyers, and then LAP would pay the fees directly. However, recognizing that some members, have a lawyer in their community that they want to utilize, or a family friend or whatnot, members can opt to retain a lawyer of their choice. The process is a little bit different, and you would have to pay for the fees up front and seek reimbursement through the program. So in any case, regardless of which channel you decide to go through, it's important to contact me, the LAP administrator, at the outset so we can discuss the process and make sure that you are approved for the funding before you actually incur any fees. So here is where another major point where PLP and LAP differ. So as Roberta mentioned, as long as you were a member of RNAO at the time of the incident giving rise to your need for legal assistance, so then you would be eligible for assistance. So it doesn't matter when the lawsuit is actually filed. It's really the incident to which the lawsuit relates. That's what determines your eligibility. LAP is a little bit different. First and foremost being that LAP only covers Ontario, unlike PLP that covers nursing practice across Canada. LAP would only assist with respect to matters that occurred in Ontario. And, of course, the person requesting assistance must be a member or associate member of the RNAO. And here is the most important point to remember, is that the person requesting assistance from LAP must be a member of LAP at the time of the incident and remain a member continuously from that time up until their case is resolved or they no longer need assistance from the program. So that is a mouthful. So here is visually the difference in eligibility criteria between PLP and LAP. So as Roberta mentioned, RNAO members are covered for claims arising from professional nursing services rendered anywhere in Canada while the nurse was an active RNAO member, irrespective of when the claim or proceeding is commenced. LAP is different in that it only covers practice in Ontario, and the member must have been an active member of RNAO and LAP at the time of the incident and have remained a member of LAP from that time without interruption up until their case is closed or assistance is no longer required. So as a case example, if you're named in a lawsuit regarding an incident which occurred on January 1st, 2017 in the course of rendering a professional nursing service, to be eligible for PLP assistance, you would have had to have been a member on January 1st, 2017. That's the only thing that you would need in order to be covered. It doesn't matter if you're a member or not at the time the lawsuit is commenced. And you can see here how LAP differs in the case that, for example, in October of 2018, you received notice that you're named in a complaint regarding an incident that allegedly occurred on January 1st, 2017. You would have had to have been an RNAO member with LAP on January 1st, 2017, and have remained a member of LAP from that time continuously through October 2018 and until your case is concluded. So that's really another main difference between PLP and LAP. So I know that can be a lot to digest. If anybody has any questions, I'll open up the floor. And then, of course, if you think of anything later on, you can feel free to email me or call me, and I will answer your question as best I can. And if more input is needed from Roberta, I can definitely direct you to her. So I'll open the floor now in case anybody has any questions.
Hi, Mara. It's Corsita. Thank you for the presentation.
Sure.
Thank you, Roberta, as well.
You're most welcome.
My question is, if we are in the retired class registration, what is the requirement for our insurance? Do we require LAP? I know we need PLP, but do we still require LAP?
Yeah, so on the PLP point, because you're covered, it's provided that you were an RNAO member, you're covered for all the nursing practice you did as an RNAO member, right? So if you're retired and you're no longer a member of RNAO, and then you're named in a lawsuit, what Roberta and her colleagues are going to look at as, what's the subject matter of the lawsuit? Let's say it relates to an incident in 2015. Were you a member of RNAO in 2015? That's going to be the eligibility criteria. For LAP, there's this second piece, and I'll just flip back to that slide. LAP, you also have to be a current member of RNAO and LAP to get services from the program, right? So, and this is a question I get a lot from members who are approaching retirement or going into retirement. Do I need to maintain my LAP? And I mean, it's in theory, because there's no statute of limitations on college complaints, it means that in theory, 10 years into your retirement, could be named in a complaint about something that happened while you were working, right? And then if you wanted to get help through LAP, you would still have to be a member of LAP. Having said that, in my almost 7 years of administering this program, I think I've seen one or two cases where somebody made a complaint years and years and years after the fact. It tends to not happen. That doesn't mean it can never happen. It tends to not happen. What I recommend for nurses going into retirement is, once you're fully retired and no longer have a CNO registration, you no longer have the same professional obligation to respond if somebody was to make a complaint to you, because you have no registration they can take away or that they can put restrictions on, right? But a lot of people are concerned about just their reputation, and even though they are in retirement and have no plans to come out of retirement, they would still want to respond to CNO to quote-unquote clear their name. So I always recommend that members keep their lab coverage for at least a few years into retirement. I've also seen members decide that full-time retirement isn't what they thought it would be, and they want to do a part-time job. So you want to make sure that you are surely in retirement before you choose to cut off the lab coverage, because again, you need to have that uninterrupted, consistent coverage in order to be eligible.
So if in retirement, if we are part of the retired class, and so we don't have lab necessarily, let's just say, and we're not actually practicing, aims you in something now, tomorrow. And I had lab, let's say, 4 years ago.
Right.
I get named now for something that happened today, so I'm not practicing. How would that affect us?
Right, so with LAP, unlike with PLP, with LAP you also have to have current membership in RNAO with LAP in order to benefit from the services of the program.
Okay.
Having said that, though, again, so for example, and this doesn't happen very often, but there was a case, I think, about a year ago, where there was an RNAO member, a LAP member, and she, was an RNAO member for years and years and years, always maintained her LAP coverage, and then she retired and stopped being an RNAO member, so stopped having LAP, and I think it was about 3 or 4 years into her retirement, and she was named in a college complaint, and she really wanted to respond even though she no longer had her registration. But, because this is a discretionary program, the LAP committee looked at the fact that she had decades and decades of membership. Right. She was covered at the time of that incident. Right. That's the subject matter of the complaint, and she, was a few years into retirement and thought it was safe to no longer be a part of the professional association. So they made an exception. That's the benefit of a discretionary program, is that exceptions can be made when it's clear that the intention behind this eligibility criteria isn't to cut out people like this nurse who through no fault of their own, couldn't foresee that 4 years into retirement she would have a complaint against her, right? But technically, in the black, if you look at the policies in a black and white way, if you call me and, a year into your retirement and say, I was named in a complaint about something that happened 3 years ago, I was a member 3 years ago, but I'm no longer a member, then technically you're no longer eligible for assistance. Okay. Yeah. Does that help? I know it gets very confusing. Does that help answer your question?
It does. It basically means that even when you retire, you still have to maintain it.
Yeah, in theory, you would have to maintain it for the rest of your life, right? But again, there's what I said about, the need to respond to the college when you no longer have a CNO registration, right? You don't have that same legal obligation to respond. But again, I have seen cases where it's clear that the spirit of the eligibility criteria isn't meant to give a disadvantage to people like yourself who have been members for many years and maintaining their LAP, and then they just find themselves in a very uncommon situation, right? This eligibility criteria is intended because a lot of people, they'll only sign up for LAP after the fact, right? And it's meant to sort of protect that front, to protect people like you who have been paying into the program for many years.
I think, too, there might need to be some more information when we when we change our status. So when we go, say, from full-time employment into that retirement or under 15 hours a week category, there should be
Sorry for that. So most members, when they move into the unemployed or underemployed category, they still do maintain their LAP. Because what if you come out of that category, right?
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is it's that it's not necessarily made clear, because when I changed my category a couple years ago, they asked me if I wanted LAP, and I said I wasn't practicing, so I guess I didn't need it. And the intake person said, yeah, I guess you don't. So that was
what you're saying. So they should have made it clear about about having that gap in your membership, what the consequences of that would be.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, no, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I'll definitely bring that up with our membership department.
Yeah. That's right? Just so that you know that's the information I didn't have previously, so I'm glad I'm on this call.
Definitely. Oh, great. That's a great question. Thank you for asking. It's definitely a question I get a lot, so. Anybody else on the line have any questions? Okay, well, thank you all so much for listening. Roberta and I are always eager to make this presentation because there still remains a lot of confusion and misunderstanding about the differences between the two programs, because as you've heard, they are very different but both very beneficial and complement each other. So again, if you have any questions or concerns or think you might need legal advice, you can give me a call at the number on your screen or contact me by email, and I'd be happy to assist you.